Question period.
Clarification. Continued speech or questions?
Pardon me. The member's speech is finished. In fact, she had a very generous 10 minutes. But her questions will be after question period. Déclaration de député, statements by members. The honourable member for Mississauga East.
Mr. Speaker, February is recognized as Black History Month. Black African and Caribbean communities can be traced back to Canada's origins. Throughout February, we honor the legacy of Black Canadians who have helped make Canada the culturally diverse and prosperous country that it is today. Harriet Tubman, who led hundreds of slaves to freedom in Canada along the Underground Railroad, and Lincoln Alexander, Canada's first Black Member of Parliament, are a few examples of great Black Canadians in our history. I extend a special thank you to thousands of Black Canadian soldiers who bravely serve and have served throughout our proud military history. I was very honored to attend celebrations of Black History Month yesterday at Praise Cathedral Worship Center in Mississauga. Many thanks to Bishop Lennox Walker and his team for a wonderful event filled with music, singing, and great stories. I encourage all Canadians to learn more about stories and experiences of Black Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
If Candlemas Day is bright and clear, there will be 2 winters in the year. Yes, Mr. Speaker, today is Groundhog Day. And despite the flawed prognostications of lesser rodents like Punxsutawney Phil and Shubenacadie Sam, Ontario's own Wyatt and Willie did not see his shadow at sunrise this morning. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we're going to have an early spring. All the more reason for all of us on both sides of this House to roll up our sleeves, work together for Canadians, ensure they're able to stay warm during the cold winters, and have something stored away for hibernation. New Democrats support measures to make life affordable for all Canadians and create the conditions for all Canadian seniors to retire with dignity and comfort. I'm sure you could agree, Mr. Speaker, that these are values that Wyatt and Willie would support. Wouldn't it be lovely if the next time he popped his head out of his den, he found a new Democratic government at the helm, working for equality, dignity, and fairness for Canadians from coast to coast to coast? See you next year, Willie.
The honourable member for Scarborough Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to rise in this House and congratulate the winners of my 4th annual Parliamentary Art Contest. As an artist of myself, I am as inspired to see so many excellent submissions and an abundance of talent in Scarborough Centre. Selecting the final winners actually proved to be quite difficult. The work of these young artists is now on display in my constituency office as well as showcased throughout my 2015 parliamentary calendar. Wow. Mr. Speaker, I invite all members to join me in congratulating the following up-and-coming young artists of Scarborough Centre: Arissa, age 12, Leah, age 11, Denise, age 11, Jasmine, age 9, Christian, age 8, Mayreen, age 8, Janice, age 7, and the youngest artist, Sathami, age 6. Wow. Mr. Speaker, I'm extremely proud of these young artists, and I encourage them to continue with the creativity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Etobicoke North.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate international development and development practitioners who work to make this world a better place. The year 2015 promises to be transformative, with the international community coming together to set new global development agenda, with opportunities for achieving gender equality and the empowerment of women, a universal climate agreement, and a 10-year plan to make the world safer from natural hazards. As we work towards these goals, let us not forget the people of the Central African Republic, Iraq, South Sudan, and Syria. Let us commit to doing all we can to protect civilians, end human suffering, and support peace. And let us help West Africa become more resilient as countries recover from Ebola. This week serves as a reminder that the poorest and most fragile countries still need our assistance, and that together we can eliminate extreme poverty.
The honourable member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, before the House today, I would like to recognize an incredible business in my riding. 4 generations of the Lash family have owned H.R. Lash, a fashionable clothing boutique specializing in menswear. Established in 1914, H.R. Lash has survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and a couple of recessions. H.R. Lash is one of Sault Ste. Marie's oldest and most beloved shops, carrying both imported fashions and Canadian-made products. The customer service at H.R. Lash is bar none. From tuxedo fittings to their extensive collection of Canada Goose jackets, patrons can always find new, trending, or popular fashions at H.R. Lash Menswear. The Lash's dedication to serving Sault Ste. Marie is why H.R. Lash has been able to continue such a long history and upstanding legacy. On behalf of the Government of Canada, congratulations to the Lash family as you begin your next 100 years.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today because February is Heart Month and because Canadians everywhere have been touched by heart disease and stroke. According to a 2014 report produced by the Heart and Stroke Foundation, 9 in 10 Canadians have one or more factors for heart disease, such as physical inactivity or high blood pressure. Every 10 minutes, Canadians suffer a stroke. The report also warns us of future challenges. Strokes are becoming more common under the age of 70, and treatment has become more complex since patients increasingly have other chronic conditions. Like many Canadians, I have lost a family member to heart disease and stroke. My mother died of a stroke, and the impact of this disease on her and our family was profound. I've seen firsthand the need for research and advocacy. Advancements in research and healthcare have helped more Canadians survive. Encouraging children to eat better and have fun with physical activity will make a tremendous difference in years to come. Mr. Speaker, I ask the House to join me in encouraging Canadians to participate in Heart Month and in applauding the vital work being undertaken by the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada.
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, it's with great pleasure that I congratulate the volunteers and organizers who once again put on a successful Lieutenant Governor's Winter Festival in Brandon this past weekend. Even with frigid prairie temperatures, thousands of Westman residents visited the pavilions and dined on traditional dishes such as Ukrainian homemade pierogies, Irish stew, Honduran tacos. Our Winter Festival brings the entire community together to celebrate in our rich and diverse cultural heritage. And Mr. Speaker, we must never forget Canada is a land of immigrants. From the prairie settler who plowed the virgin soil to our recently arrived Canadians, many who are small business owners and flourishing entrepreneurs, we as a people are more united than ever. We embrace our diversity and we remain a country of hope and example of unity to the world. And as we continue our work here in the People's House of Commons, let us renew our enthusiasm and strive to make Canada the most inclusive and welcoming country in the world. Thank you.
Here. The Honourable Member for Okanagan-Coquihalla.
Mr. Speaker, I am certain that all members of this House recognize the importance of local media in our home communities. While there's often much speculation on the changing face of local journalism, including the loss of some media publications, it's important to recognize the contributions of long-term career journalists who work daily to cover the news. One such reporter is John Morehouse from the Penticton Herald, who later this week will retire after 26 years of reporting on local events in the South Okanagan. As a former Penticton City Councillor and now as the Member of Parliament for Okanagan-Coquihalla, I'd like to thank John for his many years of service of keeping his community better informed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, Black History Month is an opportunity to remember the contribution that people of African and Haitian origin have made to Canada and the world. This year, we mark the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X, who was a symbol of Black social and political affirmation. With his words and his example, he showed the strength of engagement. Quote, "A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. So, stand for something." I am proud to salute remarkable members of the Black community who stand every day for progress. Several will be recognized this month in Montreal, such as Lydie Olga Natap, who founded Canada's first women's museum in Longueuil, or Bebeto Lonsili, an artist who is actively promoting African culture in Montreal and in Quebec. And indeed, Adele Blackett, who has devoted her life to defending human and workers' rights. These are just a few inspiring examples of those who, in their own way, are building an inclusive, equal Canada, a Canada in our own image, a Canada for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley East. Mr. Speaker, last week the Liberal member for York West suggested that if ISIL is coming here, it is because the Prime Minister put us in that position. Jihadist terrorism is not a future possibility. It is a present reality. Our government has never hesitated to call jihadist terrorism what it is. And just as we are not afraid to condemn it, we're not afraid to confront it. That's why our government committed the Canadian Armed Forces to the broad international coalition against the so-called Islamic State. Extreme jihadists have declared war on us, on all free people, on Canada specifically, and pretending it is not so is not going to make it go away. That may be the Liberal way, but it is not the Canadian way. That's right. In defending his MP's remark, the Liberal government and Liberal leader has demonstrated that he and his party do not have what it takes to stand up for Canadians and stand up against violent extremism. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to condemn these actions and stand with our allies in this fight against terrorism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Ottawa Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Leon Katz was a pioneer. Trained as an engineer, Leon invented technologies that revolutionized the practice of medicine in Canada, including Canada's first heart-lung pump for open heart surgery and Canada's first fetal heart monitor. Later in his career, Leon worked for Health Canada. His team's discovery of hazards in blood collection led to international recalls of tainted equipment and saved countless lives. He was recognized for his contributions to medicine, science and technology with the Order of Canada and the Order of Ontario. Leon Katz was a devoted father, grandfather and husband, a proud member of the Jewish community and an engaged citizen here in Ottawa. He passed away last month shortly after his 90th birthday. Mr. Speaker, Leon Katz remains an inspiration for all of us, including his daughter, Flora Love Katz, herself a recipient of the Governor-General's Caring Canadian Award, who is in Parliament today. I know all members will join me in thanking him for his service to our country.
The honourable member for Nipissing-Temiskaming.
Mr. Speaker, our government pledged that we would balance the federal budget. Now we're in a position to help Canadian families balance theirs. That's why our family tax cut will give 100% of families with kids an average of more than $1,100 per year to spend on their priorities. Partnered with the expansion of the universal child care benefits, families in Nipissing-Temiskaming and across Canada will receive nearly $2,000 per year for every child under 6, $720 per year for every child between 6 and 17. The Liberals and the NDP have said they will take this money away from moms and dads to pay for their expensive and burdensome programs through big government. Mr. Speaker, we will not let that happen. The Liberal leader seems content to push a typical Liberal tax and debt agenda at the expense of Canadian families. Only our Conservative government can be trusted to keep their money where it belongs, in their pockets.
The honourable member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, it's an honour for me to rise today in this House to make special mention of the beginning of Black History Month. I would particularly like to congratulate the Black History Roundtable, which has done exemplary work in Montreal identifying Black Canadians of every age who, through their accomplishments, make an exceptional contribution to Quebec. For example, the laureates of 2015, who I congratulate. This year, the theme is inspired by the words of Malcolm X.
Stand for nothing, will fall for anything. So, stand for something, unquote. Let us be inspired by this quote on the Hill and in our writings. And I invite all Canadians from coast to coast to celebrate these important contributions to Black Canadians for our national heritage. Together, we all make the tremendous diversity that is the strength and pride of this country we love. Thank you.
The honourable member for Lotbinière Chute de la Chaudière. Mr. Speaker, last week the Liberal member for York West said that our government's stand against jihadi terrorism, both at home and abroad, had warranted the threat attacks on Canada. Mr. Speaker, we will not apologize for taking a strong stand against barbaric actions of jihadi terrorists. ISIL's crimes are a very real and present reality. No Canadian government should ever stand on the sidelines while our allies act to deny terrorists a safe haven. An international base from which they would plot violence against us. As our Prime Minister has said, this is not the Canadian way. Our government has made it clear that we will not stand idly by while ISIL continues to threaten our values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. The Liberal leader stood by his MP's comments. Mr. Speaker, violent jihadi terrorists stand opposed to everything about our society and our values. We should actively condemn these actions, not try to justify them. Thank you.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
One of Canada's most trusted rodent prognosticators stuck his nose out of his burrow and declared that 2015 will usher in an early spring for Canadians. Tell that to Windsorites now digging out of 36 centimetres of snow. Along with Willie, New Democrats are also optimistic that a brighter future is in store for Canada in 2015. After all, we put forward practical plans for manufacturing, small businesses, the federal minimum wage, and childcare. Things that will mean money in the pockets of the middle-class families. After a decade of Ottawa Conservatives, they've been working harder but falling further behind. But hope is on its way, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are ready to replace the Prime Minister and start to repair the damage he's done. Our leader is a principled leader fighting for the middle class, and he has the experience needed to replace the Prime Minister. And in 2015, Mr. Speaker, he'll do just that.
The honourable member for Pickering, Scarborough East.
Mr. Speaker,
one thing
our family tax cut plan benefits 100% of families across Canada.
Indeed.
People in my riding of Pickering, Scarborough East know that they can count on our government to stay true on our promise of keeping taxes low and putting money back into the pockets of hard-working middle-class families. Mr. Speaker, the vast majority of these benefits will flow to low and middle-income families and will put an average of $1,100 back into their bank accounts. Both the Liberals and the NDP want to see this money back in the hands of bureaucrats, with the Liberal leader even saying he would take these benefits away from Canadians. Mr. Speaker, moms and dads don't need to be told how to spend their money. They can count on our government to keep their hard-earned money in their pockets and can trust us to keep in that way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the provincial premiers want a new partnership with the federal government. They want to stimulate investment, create jobs, and what did they get instead? Insults from the finance minister and the absence of the prime minister. Will the eternal lack of debate with the provinces continue? Can the Prime Minister say why he refuses to engage with his partners in the Confederation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister meets his provincial counterparts and territorial counterparts. He has met with them over 300 times. And ministers have done the same. I would encourage the NDP to do the same with their colleagues if they need more connections, if they need more help. We're here to help. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. That's as clear as mud, Mr. Speaker. Nothing. And 300, it's not the same thing. I know he has trouble with numbers generally, but it should be simpler this time. 0 is the number of meetings of the Council of the Federation that the Prime Minister has attended. Why does the Prime Minister systematically shun these meetings? Why has he not attended a single meeting of the Council of the Federation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Prime Minister has had over 300 contacts with his provincial and territorial partners, Mr. Speaker. Of course, we work together with our provincial partners to bring in one of Canada's biggest and most effective stimulus programs in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. We make no apologies for the fact, of course, Mr. Speaker, that we're bringing forward a balanced budget plan that will grow the economy, Mr. Speaker, while keeping taxes down with families. That is, of course, in contrast to the NDP, who would raise taxes, run big deficits, and leave that as a legacy for our kids. We'll fight that every step of the way, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, while we're probing the depths of the Conservatives' inability to answer anything, perhaps the Prime Minister could tell us this. Why did he send out his finance minister last week when the premiers of the provinces were asking for a renewed relationship with the federal government? Why did the Prime Minister choose to send out his finance minister to insult the premiers of the provinces? If the Prime Minister refuses to answer, perhaps his finance minister will.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary and the Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course, the provinces have asked for a low-tax agenda, and that's what this government is bringing forward, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
The provinces asked for assistance in manufacturing. We did that with new measures, Mr. Speaker, that have seen our Canadian economy grow. Mr. Speaker, we've created over 1.2 million jobs since the depths of the recession. We're moving in the right direction, Mr. Speaker. In contrast to the NDP and Liberal opposition who would raise taxes on Canadians, we're lowering taxes, Mr. Speaker. They would take away the universal child care benefit, Mr. Speaker. We're actually increasing that benefit, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
We're going in the right direction, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to fight the NDP and the Liberals who would raise taxes and increase debt for generations to come. We won't have that agenda.
Hear, hear. Have an update, Alfred.
The honourable member for Alfred Palan. True to himself, the Minister of Public Safety has rejected the idea of any civilian oversight over CSIS at the very time that he's getting ready to expand its powers. He thinks this would be needless red tape. Now we understand better why he's done away with one of the two oversight mechanisms. Why does the minister refuse to see to it that CSIS protects both Canadian safety and their freedom? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, I can reassure my colleague that all activities of CSIS will be covered by the oversight body. It's an independent, credible, arm's-length organization, HoC, and it is above political interference. This is what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member.
Minister has said that it is simple red tape if we have increased oversight of security matters. If we're going to be giving increased and enhanced powers, the public has a right to better oversight. Why does the minister call that red tape? Does he consider protecting Canadians' rights red tape?
Mr. Speaker, once again, I can assure the member that the Security Intelligence Review Committee will cover all activities that CSIS will be mandated by this Parliament to accomplish. Mr. Speaker, CERC is an established, well-recognized expert committee that has the knowledge to do intelligence security, Mr. Speaker. I hope, in terms when we talk of national security, Mr. Speaker, we can get the support of the opposition. Like tonight, the member can stand up and support Canadian and vote for protecting Canadian against terrorism. Thank you.
The honourable member for Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's latest GDP numbers show the economy is not just slow, it's actually shrinking. This Prime Minister has the worst economic growth record since the dirty 30s. Job creation figures for 2014 have been slashed by 1/3. Now, with energy investments, exports and jobs all down, the Bank of Canada says the situation is unambiguously negative. So instead of spending $12 billion on a tax break for the wealthy, expensive and unfair, as Jim Flaherty said, will the government devote that funding to community infrastructure for new jobs and growth?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
The honourable member is completely wrong, and he knows it, about
Ralph.
that figure.
Again?
And he's also wrong, as the Liberal Party always has been, about taxes. This government believes that allowing families to keep more of what they earn helps economic growth and helps job creation. The record is clear, which is why Canada has one of the best economic growth records in the developed world since the global economic downturn, one of the best job creation records with over 1.2 million net new jobs created. But if we follow the Liberal plan of higher taxes, reckless spending, more deficit, and a growing debt, we would go in the wrong direction, Mr. Speaker. We will not do that.
Un-Canadian. Member for Wascana.
Well, the Finance Department says it's the right direction. With respect to Canada's security agencies, the Minister of Public Safety spent the weekend trashing the notion of better oversight as just red tape. Remember, this is the government that had the great judgment to appoint Arthur Porter, now in a Panama jail, to head up the Security Intelligence Review Committee. They've left other CIRC vacancies open for years. Every single one of our allies with whom we share intelligence has a parliamentary or congressional oversight mechanism. So if it's right for the US, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia, why is it wrong for Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure my colleague will join with me in congratulating Mr. Holloway. He's a respectable Canadian, a former law dean. He'll be joining CIRC, the Security Intelligence Review Committee. Mr. Speaker, we have an exceptional model here in Canada. It's been around for 30 years. It ensures consistency in the oversight of CSIS. They have expertise, knowledge, credibility around the world. This is an opportunity to salute their work, and I would encourage the member opposite to support their work and their reporting to Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Beauséjour. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives refused to set up an enhanced parliamentary oversight system to ensure our security agencies are operating properly. In fact, they describe that oversight as needless red tape. But our closest allies have just this kind of oversight mechanism in place. Can the government explain why they see this oversight as needless when our allies view it as being indispensable? The honourable member of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, Canadians can be very proud to have an oversight body that is specifically tasked with overseeing the activities of CSIS. This body, if this bill passes, will have as its mandate to oversee all these new powers. This body has been serving Canadians for 30 years, Mr. Speaker. The Review Committee is a Canadian model. It's envied around the world. They do excellent work, and I'm convinced that they will continue to do so. The honourable member for Rimouski-Neigette. Mr. Speaker, at the Council of the Federation, the premiers were unanimous. The federal government has to pull its weight on infrastructure and boosting the economy. Jean-Marc Fournier from Quebec spoke for the provinces when he said revenues are split 50-50, but the provinces are stuck with two-thirds of the costs. The federal government has to pull its weight when it comes to job creation and modernizing our infrastructures. Why is the government stubbornly letting the economy and the job market slide off the rails? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, first of all, the preamble to the question is completely false. The federal government, our Conservative government, has the best record on infrastructure spending in history. We have the longest and biggest infrastructure plan in Canadian history. 95% of infrastructure comes under provincial and municipal jurisdiction, but we are partners with them in that. The honourable member. Job losses are racking up across the country, but the government is harming farmers in my region. The Conservatives promised the UPA in my riding in 2004 that they would give back expropriated land that was taken by the Trudeau government. Can the Transport Minister, is he going to keep his promise a decade ago made by his Prime Minister to return expropriated lands to the farmers? The Honourable Minister of Transport.
We're very pleased with the progress that we've been making with respect to this file. We take it very seriously. Of course, we're working with all stakeholders. In fact, it was last year that we were able to put all the stakeholders together in a room, including the members of Parliament who represent the affected areas, to ensure that we're listening to stakeholders in terms of what they would like to see happen. Of course, Mr. Speaker, Transport Canada's role is to make sure everything is done in a safe and a responsible manner, and we'll continue to do so.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, due to successive Conservative and Liberal cuts, fewer unemployed people qualify for EI. Of the 17,000 workers laid off by Target, many will not be eligible for EI because they haven't got enough hours to qualify. The tightening up of the rules also has a significant impact on local economies in many communities. Job losses and bankruptcies are piling up. Why are the Conservatives continuing to take money out of the EI fund instead of helping the unemployed? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the member is quite wrong. It's the opposite. We continue to make EI available to those who need it, those who have obviously worked for a certain amount of time. 86% of people who have paid in to EI do get access. And what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that the vast majority of those who've paid into the system are able to get benefits back out of it if they qualify. Now, member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, in infrastructure, 2/3 of the costs are incurred by provinces and municipalities, but the federal government collects half of the taxes. The NDP has an urban plan that would allow all levels of government to work together to boost job creation and modernize our infrastructure. It's time the minister showed up and took part. Why are the Conservatives incapable of working with the provinces and municipalities to meet the needs of Canadians? The Honourable Minister. As I said before, 95% of infrastructure belongs to the provinces and the municipalities, but they only pay 2/3 of the cost. That means that we are playing a very active role in funding infrastructure. We recently announced $5 billion for federal infrastructure. I would invite the cities and particularly the provinces to continue to make efforts around infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now let's get the math right. 2/3 of the funds for infrastructure are spent by provinces and municipalities, but they only receive half the tax revenues. Infrastructure keeps our cities safe and functioning, and it drives the economy. But funding cuts by both Conservative and Liberal governments have left our cities badly in need of investment. And now we have a minister from Toronto who says it would be crazy to improve infrastructure. Does the minister really believe Torontonians deserve nothing better than gridlock and crumbling infrastructure?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, our government has introduced the largest and longest infrastructure plan in Canadian history, with $75 billion in public infrastructure in the next decade, including $53 billion in new building Canada for provincial, territorial and municipal infrastructure. We have recently announced, the Prime Minister have announced, new infrastructure funding to deal with federal infrastructure. We encourage provinces to do the same in regards to their infrastructure.
The Honourable Member for Parkdale High Park.
Well, the sad truth is nothing now for transit, but billions to hand out to Canada's richest families. Now, Conservatives have ignored our growing infrastructure deficit, and they're trying to also ignore mounting job losses. But the retail closures continue. Mex, 95 stores. Jones, New York, 36 stores. Sony, 14 stores. Target, 133 stores. And that's just January 2015. This is what happens when you have no jobs plan and when you fail to stand up for workers. What's the minister going to do about it? Delay the budget even more?
Very good. The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, our jobs plan has resulted in one of the best employment records in the developed world since the global downturn. Just give you a couple of examples, Mr. Speaker. The apprenticeship grants that we've delivered over $700 million, 500,000 apprenticeship grants. The apprenticeship job creation tax credit, the tradesperson's tools tax credit, supporting Red Seal harmonization across the country, the new job bank, job alerts, microloans for foreign trained professionals so they can get their credentials recognized, the targeted initiative for older workers, enhancements in Aboriginal training programs, and on, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
The only thing their job alert says to Canadians is there are no jobs for them to get, and these guys want to give themselves a pat on the back. Middle-class Canadian families are working harder and harder and falling further and further behind. Under Conservative mismanagement, the Canadian economy actually shrank in November, and this on top of record-high youth unemployment at twice the national average and 1.3 million Canadians still out of work. Your Democrats have proposed to help small businesses. Conservatives proposed to help with a $2 billion tax cut, the richest 15% of Canadian families. We propose to help manufacturers. And the Conservatives want to argue about the 400,000 manufacturing jobs that have disappeared under their watch. When is it just when the economy needs action? This Conservative finance minister and his budget aren't anywhere to be found.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's what the economist Jack Mintz has said about the NDP's economic policies. He said, the NDP's policies means that businesses get hit with higher taxes and their policies tend to keep businesses smaller. With regard to small business and the plan that the NDP leader put forward in the fall of last year, Dan Kelly of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business said the NDP leader's plan for the economy is dumb and anti-small business. He's got it exactly right. He understands that this Conservative government is going in the right direction to support the expansion of manufacturing, to protect small business and keep the economy going in the right direction.
Member for St. John South Mount Pearl.
Mr. Speaker, we know the Prime Minister thinks Atlantic Canadians have a defeatist attitude, but if he thinks New Democrats are going to stop fighting for Newfoundland and Labrador, well, he's got another thing coming, Mr. Speaker. We know the promise they made. There are documents to prove it. So I put a motion on the floor calling on Conservatives to honour that promise. Mr. Speaker, will Conservatives stand in their place and honour the promise they made, or will they once again betray Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Alcoa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was in this place 2 hours ago when the honourable member stood at his feet and said that his party doesn't know where they stand yet on the Canada-European Union trade agreement, an agreement that will benefit his province immensely. The province of Newfoundland and Labrador recognizes that CETA is of huge benefit to the province as well as to the fisheries, and our government remains committed to a fund with the Newfoundland and Labrador on transition, but we will not have a fund that will be a blank check that could be used to disadvantage other provinces.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are breaking their clear commitment, creating confusion for our EU partners, and jeopardizing CETA. That's no way to conduct trade policy in Canada, Mr. Speaker. If the Minister of Trade doesn't think Newfoundland and Labrador should get a transition fund, he shouldn't have agreed to it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But he did agree, and emails from his Chief of Staff and the facts prove it. How can we believe any promise the Conservatives have made to any province if they're willing to deny the promise they made to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Alcoa.
Mr. Speaker, as I just said, our government remains committed to working out the details of the Minimum Processing Requirements Fund with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador. We remain open to this transition initiative, but this fund was never intended to be a blank check that could be used to disadvantage the other Atlantic provinces. And what I would say to the honourable member is they need to consult with industry, consult with the province, and realize that this agreement is of immense benefit to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Mr. Speaker, infrastructure supports our economy, and this government has failed to support our infrastructure. Let me give a reality check, a real example. The percentage of roads listed in good condition in the city of Winnipeg has dropped to below 60%. That's at 58.6%, which is down by almost 7%, Mr. Speaker. We need a government that's committed to investing in Canada's infrastructure. My question to the government is, why is the government ignoring the needs of infrastructure for the city of Winnipeg and other communities across Canada, which denies economic opportunity and hope into the future, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah! The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
You know, Mr. Speaker, from the past, then Liberal want to manage everything in Ottawa on behalf of everybody. Yeah. We don't manage the city on behalf of the City Council, Mr. Speaker. We work with them in support to them. And in Canada, provinces and territories, municipalities own 95% of public infrastructure. 95. The fact did not stop us. As a proof, we have put forward the largest and longest infrastructure plan, $75 billion over the next decade. It's quite a contrast with the Liberal years, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Kings Hants.
Speaker, Canada needs jobs and growth now. And Stats Canada has now tells us that, in fact, 65,000 fewer jobs were created last year than they previously reported. Our economic growth hasn't just stalled, it actually went into reverse last month with a shrinking GDP. Smart infrastructure creates jobs and growth today and it builds a stronger economy to create more jobs and growth in the future. So why are the Conservatives, during this period of slow growth, why have they cut the Building Canada Fund by almost 90% over the next 2 years, back-end loading to 2017, the next real increase?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Again, that's false, Mr. Speaker. What he said, that's false. Important project worth more than estimated to $5 billion in total project costs have already been identified for funding in the new Building Canada plan, Mr. Speaker. We continue to deliver, we continue to support, but in partnership. 95% of infrastructures are owned by municipalities and provinces. They are investing 2/3. We are there to support them, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kings Hands.
Mr. Speaker, with a stalled economy, weak jobs market, and low bond yields, now is the perfect time to invest in Canada's infrastructure. That's what everyone from David Dodge to the IMF to mayors across Canada are telling this government, that now is the right time to invest in infrastructure. But on Friday, when the Premiers actually called for more federal investment in infrastructure, the Finance Minister called them, quote, oblivious. Does the Minister think that the IMF, David Dodge, and Canada's mayors are also oblivious?
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, since we are in government, we have invested strongly in infrastructure of this country. The new Building Canada plan and all the components we have for $75 billion. And I want to say that all the components of Building Canada are available for transit. They can apply to any part of that, Mr. Speaker. I know when I was mayor, the Liberal era, Mr. Speaker. They massively cut federal transfers. They don't have infrastructure program. That's Liberal. Right. We'll never go there, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
The government has no idea as to how toxic the oil sands will be for our rivers. We need more research to know the impact of bitumen and oil on the aquatic environment. However, the Conservatives have cut funding for research, abandoned lakes, the experimental lake project, and cut the Maurice Lamontagne Institute. Why are the Conservatives playing with the safety of Canadians and their environment?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I can assure this member that the responsible development of our energy resources is integral to Canada's economy, and oil and gas is an area of considerable study as we seek to broaden our scientific knowledge of the field. Through our Responsible Resource Development Plan, we're enhancing our world-class tanker safety system, but we're also doing additional scientific research on petroleum products to broaden our understanding of how these substances and how they behave in marine environments.
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
Well, Mr. Speaker, a federal report reveals huge gaps in the handling of oil sands bitumen spills. Nobody, not the National Energy Board, Environment Canada, Fisheries and Oceans, nobody knows how to deal with a bitumen spill properly. And in the Arctic, the problem is even worse. Conservatives, they continue to pretend that nothing's wrong. Well, the Prime Minister has gutted environmental laws and cut funding to that very research. So when will they stop cutting the research that will help us deal with these spills?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government has made responsible resource development a priority. We have made significant investments and progress since we've launched the Joint Implementation Panel for the oil sands monitoring with Alberta. More areas are being monitored. There is more frequent sampling and more contaminants are being examined. This is transparent public process which has some of Canada's top scientists involved. Our government will continue to support Canadian jobs while protecting the environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa-la-Prairie.
CP Rail is using office workers to drive and load trains. We're talking about trains that could be 1.5 miles long with hundreds of cars with dangerous goods going through our cities. This is a huge safety concern. Does the Minister approve of CP Rail's method? Does she think it's safe and appropriate?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Transport Canada's role is to ensure that there's a minimum qualification standard for locomotive engineers, and we expect that CP and CN will train to those standards to ensure the safety of the operation of these trains. It is up to CP and CN to ensure that they are training to the standards that are acceptable and needed in these cases of driving these heavy pieces of machinery. I expect that they will do so, but if they don't, Mr. Speaker, we will indeed inspect, and we will make sure that they do this in an appropriate manner.
The honourable member for Brassard-Prairie.
Top priority. Le Canadien Pacifique utilise des
Canadian Pacific is using office workers to drive trains that may be carrying dangerous goods through our cities. The government has clearly not learned from past mistakes. In 2007, CN was blamed for a train accident caused by a lack of staff training. A manager was driving the train. Does the minister recognize that this is a major threat to public safety?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, perhaps what the member is referring to is the possibility that there will be some strike action at CP in the next coming weeks. In cases where there is strike action, I think it's important for the House to note that Transport Canada will actually increase its field monitoring on these locomotives for this very purpose, to ensure that the people who are driving the trains are qualified to do so and that they're doing so safely. So we are on it, Mr. Speaker. Transport Canada officials and inspectors are aware of what's going on. They're in contact with these rail companies on a daily basis to ensure that our trains travel safely in this country.
The honourable member for Dauphin, Swan River, Marquette.
Mr. Speaker, Canada continues to stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine in the face of clear Russian military aggression. This is precisely why we have already made significant contributions to NATO's Ukrainian assurance measures. Canadian fighter jets have conducted Baltic air policing. HMCS Fredericton is assigned to NATO's Standing Maritime Task Force, and Canadian Armed Forces personnel have conducted training exercises in Eastern Europe. Can the Parliamentary Secretary for National Defence provide this House with an update on the latest actions our government is taking to show Canada's support for Ukraine?
The Parliamentary Secretary and the Minister of Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Dauphin, Swan River, Marquette for his continued support for the people of Ukraine. I am pleased to announce that today Canada will join the United States-Ukraine Joint Commission on Defence Reform and Bilateral Cooperation. This will significantly improve Canada's ability to provide assistance to the Ukrainian armed forces. Together, we will increase the capacity of Ukrainian security forces to defend Ukraine's territorial integrity. In the face of this Russian unacceptable military aggression, Canada will do its part to support Ukraine, its sovereign territory, and the people of Ukraine.
Honourable member for Hull-Aylmer. The Supreme Court has just struck down legislation preventing public servants in Saskatchewan from going on strike. The court has reiterated that the right to strike is protected by the Constitution, and that the arbitrary broadening of essential services cannot be done. Do the Conservatives understand that they need to take action and amend a C4, which is radically affecting the right to strike in the public service? The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, the decision rendered by the Supreme Court last Friday focused on essential services legislation governing Saskatchewan's public sector employees. As such, it does not directly deal with the federal labor legislation. Our government is reviewing this decision and will be moving forward in the future, but essentially, as I said, this is about the public sector in Saskatchewan.
The
Supreme Court recognized that the right to strike is protected under the Constitution. The Conservatives have shown blatant disregard for the right to strike, even stripping it from federal workers with Bill C-4. That bill is nearly identical to the Saskatchewan law that the Supreme Court just ruled is not constitutional. So will the minister sit down with the unions and come up with an agreement? Or will he waste tax dollars fighting to protect an unconstitutional law?
The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Thank you very much. And I meet regularly with both employees and employers. I receive their input on a wide range of subject matters. So I'm quite happy to say, yet again, as I just mentioned earlier, the Supreme Court came forward with their ruling. It's focused specifically with respect to Saskatchewan's public sector union. We are reviewing it. And as I say, I'll continue to work with both the employers and employees in the labour section to make sure that we have a productive Canadian economy.
Honourable member for Churchill.
Mr. Speaker, another part of the population that has been abandoned by this government are Aboriginal communities. They continue to face difficult, deplorable living conditions. Many of them live in poorly insulated houses without drinking water. Departmental data shows that nearly 25% of Aboriginal children are living in poverty across the country, 25% in a G7 country. That is unacceptable. What is the government waiting for to finally take some action? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government is taking action on a daily and monthly basis with partners across the country to address these challenges affecting many communities. Now, we know that members of the NDP measure the government's efforts in the number of taxpayers' dollars. Well, if we look and use that as a standard and we look from 2006 to today, well, they can realize that we have considerably increased investments in order to improve the lives of people in our Aboriginal communities, Mr. Speaker.
Talking about levels of child poverty that are unprecedented in our country. I mean, this country is having an unprecedented conversation about systemic racism, and the only people that aren't part of it is this federal government. Internal reports from ANSI last week showed that First Nations in Manitoba have the most challenging living conditions. People love their communities. They love where they come from, and they want to be part of making these places better. But they agree that conditions must change. Under the government, access to education, housing, and economic opportunities are below other First Nations and, of course, non-First Nation communities. So will the minister step up, acknowledge the systemic discrimination, and be part of the solution?
The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, our government believes that Aboriginal people should have the same quality of life and the same opportunities as other Canadians, and that is why we continue to take action and move forward on key priorities. Since 2006, Mr. Speaker, our investment in housing, for example, just in Manitoba, have resulted in the construction of more than 1,800 new homes in Manitoba. We've committed significant funds to Manitoba's water and wastewater infrastructure. We have already also made investment on education, job training, and we will continue.
The Honourable Member for St. Paul's.
The Conservative government is cynically trying to balance its budget by holding back money allocated to Canadians with disabilities. In previous years, almost every penny allocated to the Enhanced Accessibility Fund was spent. But last year, the government lapsed more than a third of that budget. More shocking is where the small amount of money is going. Almost 3/4 of the money spent in Conservative-held ridings. Will the government stop playing politics with some of Canada's most vulnerable people?
The Honourable Minister of State.
We're very proud of the Enabling Accessibility Fund. We've funded over 1,800 projects across the country. Of course, projects need to actually be applied for in order to receive the funding, and the ridings and regions that have received funding are in direct proportion to the applications that they have submitted. So we look forward to applications coming in from every corner of the country, from every riding, and to continue to fund the enabling accessibility for people with disabilities.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Laurent-Cartierville. Mr. Speaker, only 7% of those funds designed to renovate buildings to make them accessible to persons with disabilities went to Quebec. Why only 7% to Quebec? Is it because, one, the Conservatives have spent more than 2/3 of the money in conservatively held ridings, which is something that's very rare in Quebec, or two, because the Conservatives are neglecting Quebec, or three, because the Quebec ministers are asleep at the switch? Or is it four, for all the reasons above?
We're not having a Ministre d'État.
The Honourable Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker, the proportion of funds that were allocated to projects are consistent with the applications that were received. Let me give you an example. In Ontario that particular year, there were a total of 1,092 applications received. In Quebec, there were 206. Mr. Speaker, what I would encourage all members to do is to let their constituents, their community places know about the Enabling Accessibility Fund. We're continuing to fund fund these projects, but I would encourage them to let their ridings know, whatever province they're from, these members of Parliament should help their community places know about our Enabling Accessibility Fund.
Member for
Emails released to the Ottawa Citizen today show that on the day of the shooting on Parliament Hill in October, Canadian military leaders were saying that the event presented a, quote, strategic opportunity to affirm Canada's participation in the war in Iraq. Subsequently, senior officials expressed a desire to appear alongside Ottawa police at a press conference the next day. Mr. Speaker, these were emotional times for all. But would the government agree that describing the events on Parliament Hill as a strategic opportunity is regrettable?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as we've said right from the start, that we are in a battle with ISIL and the terrorists. They are the ones that have declared war on Canada and our allies, and we will continue to confront them head on. And I'm proud of the job that our Canadian Armed Forces are doing in Operation Impact, whether it's the Air Task Force, whether it's our Special Operation Forces, but they are aiding and assisting and providing the advice that is required by the Iraqi security forces and the Kurdish Peshmerga.
Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, according to an exchange of emails obtained by the Ottawa Citizen, a Prime Minister's military advisor stated that the October 22nd attacks represented, and I quote, a strategic opportunity to justify Canada's military mission in Iraq. Does the government think it's normal that in the Langevin building, the day of the attacks in Ottawa, they were thinking about scoring political points and justifying the war in Iraq instead of focusing entirely and exclusively on Canadian safety? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I know the NDP are opposed to protecting the innocent people of Iraq who have been brutalized and terrorized by ISIL. We will continue to work with our Iraqi security forces and our allies in this coalition to defeat ISIL and ensure that they aren't able to bring their brand of terrorism to us here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Brant.
Mr. Speaker, terrorism is one of the greatest threats facing society today. These barbarians from the so-called Islamic State despise the Canadian values of equality and prosperity. Our Conservative government has taken strong action to meet this challenge by joining our allies in military action to degrade and destroy the threat that they pose, and by giving our security agencies the tools they need to keep Canadians safe. Could the Minister of Public Safety please update this House on legislative measures to combat the terrorist threat?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the international jihadi movement has declared war on Canada. Canadians are being targeted by jihadi terrorists simply because these terrorists hate our society and the values it represents, our values. Mr. Speaker, jihadi terrorism is not a human right, it is a criminal act, Mr. Speaker. That's why under the leadership of this government, Mr. Speaker, we've been putting forward the Combat Terrorism Act more than a year ago, Mr. Speaker. No support from the NDP, Mr. Speaker. We are ready to revoke passport. We are ready, Mr. Speaker, to take action like removing dual citizenship to protect Canadians. No support from the NDP, Mr. Speaker. We are standing up to protect Canadian.
The Honourable Member from Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, the new Veterans Minister tabled a progress report on government's changes to the new Veterans Charter that was so lacking, he slipped it out on a Friday night. He still doesn't address the benefit clawbacks for the most severely disabled, the unfairness of the lump sum payout, caseworker overloading, nor the unequal treatment of reservists. His solution for the lack of help for spouses of veterans with severe PTSD, like Jenny Mignot, is an online app. These problems were identified years ago. How much longer will this minister make our injured forces members and our veterans wait?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Veterans
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. MPs from all parties on the Standing Committee for Veterans Affairs worked together cohesively, and they made a number of constructive recommendations. One of the recommendations they asked, Mr. Speaker, was that the government update the committee on January 30th And that is exactly what the minister did. He released a 6-page letter, Mr. Speaker, in which he outlined the progress that the government is making on recommendations. I'm running out of time, but I'll list one of them, Mr. Speaker. One of the recommendations was to extend psychological counselling to the families of veterans. Mr. Speaker, on December 1st, 2014, we extended the number of psychological counselling sessions available to family members of veterans. Thank you.
Member for Newton North Delta.
There has been a lot of Conservative talk about safety, but not a single cent of new resources for the police. A year ago, the NDP proposed a common-sense Surrey Accord that would put more police on our streets. A year later, violent crime in my community is up, and the only response from Conservatives has been more cuts to the RCMP. When will the Conservatives keep their promise to put more police on Surrey streets?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, over the course of the years, we have increased the budget of our police by 7 times, Mr. Speaker. And 7 times, Mr. Speaker, we didn't get support from the opposition, Mr. Speaker. The real question is, when will police officers get real money from the opposition instead of empty talk? Well, they can count on us to provide them the resources they need.
Honourable Member for Darling Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, last week we heard reports of a marijuana home grow-up located right beside a school in Markham. Parents are outraged that their kids keep coming home from school stinking of pot. Yet this grow-up continues to be allowed because the courts are standing in the way of our government's efforts to stop old Liberal programs that allowed grow-ups. Can the Minister of Health please update the House on our government's efforts to shut down these dangerous grow-ups and protect families?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's for these very reasons that we've made tough new laws ending home grow-ops for marijuana. But unfortunately, we're battling the courts with the delay. But as Health Mr. Speaker, I'm absolutely appalled that the Liberal leader actually defended these home grow-ops and continues to advocate for mass legalization of marijuana. And Mr. Speaker, when we legalize something, we normalize it. And when we normalize it, the message to kids is that it's okay. And it is not okay for kids to smoke marijuana. It's harmful for their health. And we will be the government that will continue to protect the health of kids.
Well said, well said. Not having an update about.
The Honourable Member for Bas-Richelieu, Nicolas Bécancourt. Mr. Speaker, the Quebec Employers Council on the weekend showed us just how to disconnect completely from the regions. I must say that the federal government has also put in place austerity measures that have encouraged rural and regional exodus, like the most recent EI reforms. Does the minister or his minister understand that, like the Bloc Québécois is proposing, it's time to put in place measures to target the regions and to allow for job creation, the development of our communities, and to help our regions flourish? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. Economic development for Canada and the regions of Quebec is present across the country, and we are undertaking projects across the province with the support of promoters. Clearly, the member is familiar with what the Quebec Employers Council has said. The essential nature is, in fact, to focus on the regional development of Quebec and the rest of the country, Mr. Speaker.
For Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it very clear that I completely agree with every word in today's Globe and Mail editorial. I think every MP should read it. This Parliament must not allow the Conservatives to turn CSIS into a secret police force. The words that are found in the definition of activities that affect the security of Canadians are so overbroad that I believe they could apply to almost anything, despite the inclusion of saying it does not apply to lawful protest. Will the minister tell us if this will apply to non-violent civil disobedience such as that against pipelines?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, we live in a society of right, Mr. Speaker. Any violence is going against the criminal code. Terrorism, Mr. Speaker, is a criminal act, and those who goes against the criminal code will meet the full force of the law. That's the country I live in and I love, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Hunsik. Mr. Speaker, on January 8th, member of RAPSIM, the Montreal Homelessness Network, stated that the thrust of the homelessness partnering strategy, of moving it towards housing first, would represent major setbacks for reducing homelessness. People are very concerned that Accessoire, a unique frontline service in northern Montreal, will bear the brunt of this policy shift. Does the Minister of Employment and Social Development understand that the complex nature of homelessness requires a host of intervention strategies, including prevention? The Honourable Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker, what the evidence has shown is that housing first is the best way to eliminate and to help end homelessness. But, Mr. Speaker, what we have done with our HPS strategy is we've allowed flexibility so that some of the funding would go towards housing first, but that there would be some funding available for the more traditional ways to address homelessness. Mr. Speaker, we believe that's the best way to use this money, as we have spent over $600 million to fight homelessness. We want it to be evidence-based, at the same time allowing flexibilities for different parts of the country to address homelessness as they see fit.
That concludes the question period for today. I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Mike Nixon, Minister of Health and Social Services and Minister responsible for the Workers' Compensation Health and Safety Board for Yukon. Tabling of documents, dépôt de documents. Introduction of government bills. Déclaration de ministres.
Statements by ministers.
Rapport de délégation interparlementaire.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations.
Presenting reports from committees. Introduction of private members' bills. Mr. Warwa, seconded by Ms. Bateman, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Criminal Code, Vehicular Homicide. This motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Langley.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honoured to introduce Cassandra's Law on behalf of Canadians who have had a loved one killed by an impaired drunk driver. And I want to thank the member from Winnipeg South Centre for her important support on this issue and her hard work. 1,000 Canadians are killed every year by a person who chose to drive while they were drunk or impaired instead of taking a bus or a taxi. Impaired driving is the #1 cause of criminal death in Canada every year, Mr. Speaker. Family and friends are devastated and their lives are torn apart when this happens. In 2011, 22-year-old Cassandra Collius was tragically killed by a drunk driver. Her family joined others who have also lost loved ones to impaired drivers, and they created an organization called Families for Justice. Nearly 90,000 Canadians have signed petitions calling for changes to the criminal code. Mr. Speaker, Cassandra's Law